Hey everybody, it's Kirsten with Talk Travel Eat, and like the title of this video says, don't believe everything you hear. If you've been watching our channel for the last few months, you'll know that my husband Mark and I moved ourselves to Portugal from the US in 2021. Interestingly enough, you'll never believe that the first time I came to Portugal, I had no interest in coming to Lisbon. I know. It's funny how things work out, isn't it? Okay, let me get back to telling you about the first time we came to Portugal and why we didn't come to Lisbon. So we were going on a trip to Morocco, and it was the perfect time to combine our trip to Morocco with a trip to Portugal. We hadn't been to Portugal yet. We had looked at coming a few times before, but we always scrapped it in favor of going somewhere else. So this was the perfect opportunity. We could get a flight into either Lisbon or Porto, and I just couldn't decide which city seemed like more fun to spend a little while in before and after our time in Morocco. So I watched countless videos, I read tons of blogs, and I just couldn't make up my mind because both cities seemed really appealing. So believe it or not, the deal breaker was the so-called dog poop. In the blogs I read about Porto, everybody talked about the dog poop that was on the streets of Lisboa. And for me, it was a no-brainer. I didn't want to go somewhere where I was going to have to dodge dog poop for my entire trip. Fast forward several years, and after living a couple of months in Porto and coming to Lisbon, it was obvious that Lisbon was the city for us. So that leads me into the title of this video: don't believe everything you hear, read, watch. You gotta come see for yourself. Let's get into it. I was reading on an online forum today, and there was a post by a lady who plans to move to Portugal, but she's going to change her plans based on something she read on an online forum that talked about a person who had a bad experience at an emergency department at a hospital here in Portugal. And the bad experience had to do with whether or not visitors were allowed to come in. And she said after she read that, she just made an assumption that that's how all the hospitals were here in Portugal. And so she decided not to move here because she didn't want to be in a situation if she got into a hospital and no one could come and see her that was in her family. Now for me, obviously, when I read things online, watch videos, read blogs, read forums, I take everything with a grain of salt, because one person's experience is not necessarily everyone's experience. So, but it made me pause because people seem to believe everything they read, see, or hear on the internet. And I just don't think it's wise. Even my videos, even what I say, add it to your arsenal and take it with a grain of salt. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about in the don't believe everything you hear is about budgeting and cost of living in certain parts of Portugal. The bottom line is, I think you need to come see it for yourself. People always ask, can I live on X amount in X city? I think if you're really determined to live in a certain city on a certain budget, you're gonna be able to do it. I just don't think it's as cut and dry as everybody would like you to believe. There are exceptions always, and I just think it depends on how hard you're willing to look for what you want. We live in Lisbon. We live in a great neighborhood. We have a really nice apartment. It's not a shiny, brand new, renovated apartment, but it is modern enough, clean, climate controlled, and we're not paying an arm and a leg for it. There are plenty of apartments like ours spread around the city. We can't afford to pay 2,000 euro a month for an apartment, and there are lots of people that can't. Personally, I just don't think people should write off Lisbon as being too expensive if they really haven't come here to look and see what's available and what the pricing is like. It's just not as cut and dry as people would like you to believe, and I'm gonna make a whole video about why I love Lisbon. My best tip for you with regarding budgeting and the cost of living is to make sure you consider the exchange rate. Right now, if you're coming from the US, the dollar is extremely favorable to the euro. I'm talking it's almost even, which when you think about it is pretty incredible. Now, if you get paid in US dollars, that's great. But you want to plan your budget for a time when the euro is not as favorable to the dollar, because it's gonna swing back. So whatever you think your top budget is, you're probably gonna want to reduce that by a few $100s each month, just to leave yourself a lot of cushion. Okay, the next area I want to talk about is the D7 visa and whether or not you should hire somebody to help you out to get the visa. You know, if you read these online forums, they'll tell you that you don't need to hire an attorney, you don't need to hire a relocation specialist, you can just do it all on your own. And that's true for the most part. I mean, I gathered all the paperwork for our visas. I had done it before for other visas, so it was a pretty straightforward process. But if you're new to the process, don't beat yourself up for wanting to hire someone to help you with the process. What I will tell you is, if you're going to hire someone, make sure the person is reputable, make sure their entity is reputable, and make sure you talk to many people who have had a favorable outcome by using that person, entity, or service. There are a lot of good resources out there, and there are a lot of good services out there. You just want to be careful and make sure you know what kind of results you can expect. Okay, so my best tip for you regarding the D7 visa, if you're on a long-term plan, let's say a year, 2 years, go ahead and make arrangements to get your NIF and bank account. That way you can establish a relationship with your bank. You can deposit small amounts of money each month leading up to the time that you apply for the visa, and that way the bank can see that you're serious about making this move. You've already developed a relationship with the bank, and when it's time to make that big deposit right before your visa appointment, you won't have to sweat out making sure the large transfer arrives in your account before your visa appointment. Just saying. Okay guys, that's gonna be it for this video. I just want you to take everything you read, see, hear with a grain of salt. Come check it out for yourself, and don't get discouraged, because everything isn't as it seems. As always, thanks for watching. I always appreciate you watching, and I always appreciate your comments. If you're watching this video and you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate you hitting that subscribe button, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.